All right, everybody. Hey, I want to do another one of these lecture video deals to talk a little bit about APA style. So I know the majority of you guys are at least familiar to some degree with MLA, and that's good. I'm glad that we have at least some grounding and understanding that these papers need to be formatted in a specific way for academic writing. But the majority of you guys are going to be using APA, so I want to make sure that everyone has some experience with that. Even if you're in a career field that will not, or in a career field or a major that's not going to use APA predominantly, there very well may be some classes that you'll be in, some science classes that you'll need to take over the course of your college career that will require you to write in APA style. So at least want you to have a familiarity with it, everyone. All right, so let's look at this. So APA style, it was originated in 1929 by the American Psychological Association. I don't know why. I don't think there's any special reason why APA is, and not the American whatever other whatever other association. Why we chose to, where it's so many career fields and majors chose American Psychological Association. It's just what they did. It just works pretty well. It seems to work pretty well for most people. Along with MLA, it's one of the two main academic styles. Some of you guys will be using Chicago or IEEE or some other formats, but the majority of you will either use MLA or APA. The majority using APA. There are some differences. The main differences between MLA and APA are that they use section headers to break up your paper. So if you have pretty good, well organized paper, you'll see you can see section headings or subheadings that can help to organize the writing for your reader. It can be much more helpful to keep you on track especially if you're doing something that's like a lab report or some kind of a science report where you're going to have maybe phases or show change in over time or something like that, or maybe they're main sections of your research that you had to do. So those section headers can be pretty helpful. The tone of it's going to be a little bit different. We'll talk about that more in a second. Between MLA and APA, it's much more science-y. In-text citations are different. And that's going to be one of the main things that you're going to encounter writing this paper, is that the in-text citations are going to be a little bit different. And then the references list is not altogether that different. In the idea behind having in-text citations and a bibliography for APA, it's a references list, and for MLA, of course, it's a works cited list. There's really not tons of difference. They're still going to be using hanging indents and alphabetize your entries, and the spacing is going to be double spaced. So it's similar, but the way that you actually like line the information up from your source in your entry and your references list is going to be just a little bit different. And that's I'm not going to teach you how to do that, because there's so many different sources of information that you can use and sources that you can cite that I'd be here for 6 days trying to tell you how to do every one. And we asked you to get the Little Seagull manual, because you can go in there and find the sources or find it online if you need to, how to format this. So I'm not going to go into great detail telling you specifically how to do it, because it's there for you. You guys are all adults and you can figure it out. If you need help, of course, I'd be glad to help you, and the Writing Center will be too, but it's not that hard. So in APA, sometimes it may require an abstract. And so when I think about an abstract, when you go and look at academic journals, and I'm going to do some introduction to academic journals here in the next week or so, what you'll find is that most academic journals can be pretty long, right? Anywhere between 10 and 30, 40 pages sometimes. And depending on the length of it, instead of having to read the entirety of an academic journal, a 30-page, 25-page academic journal, instead of trying to go through that whole thing to determine whether or not it's going to be of value to you in your research, oftentimes when you have an abstract at the beginning of your paper, what that is like 200-300 word kind of a summation of the totality of what's in that academic journal article, and so that you can just, you know, breeze through it real quick and say, okay, maybe this seems like something I should use my time to do, to read through. And so some of your papers in the future may require you to have an abstract. I don't think the paper length that I'm asking you to write for this project 3, it's 1,800 words. I don't think that requires an abstract. If you want to do one to practice, that's fine. I mean, you're not going to get bonus points for it. So, you know, I don't think you require one for this kind of paper. All right. Yeah, and it should be written after your main paper is complete. So I would never like write an abstract before you get done writing. It's kind of, to me, like writing the introduction to your paper. You really need to do the work, the body work, before you can tell me what the summation of all of your work is, because it could change over time depending on research and how you're thinking through. All right. So about 2 years ago, maybe now, the APA came out with their 7th edition, and that kind of changed up the way that made it a little easier, I think, in my mind, some aspects of it. So the 7th edition is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to talk through here just a little bit about both of them. For this paper, for this class, I'll accept APA 6, though I think you should probably start working towards APA 7. In my mind, it's a little easier. But the only reason I'm going to accept APA 6 is because that's what is still in the Little Seagull manual. They haven't yet published the one. I was just on website a couple days ago trying to see if I could get a copy of the APA of the new Little Seagull manual with APA 7 in it. They don't have it yet. It's not printed. So if you want to do an APA 6, if you're familiar with that, that's fine. I would prefer that you guys try to work towards APA 7. All right. So, and one of the main things that is important for you all is that there are 2 title pages, and the title page is the first page you're going to get in your paper. One is for students and one is for like professional work. So, and the student paper is a little bit easier, and that's the one that I'm going to show you. Okay, so APA 6, this is the title page, the first page of your paper. What we need is a running head, and you can see here, so that running head, it goes across the top of all of the pages in your paper. And the running head, the actual running head, is less than 50 characters, and it's going to be in all caps. So if you see this example here, you'll see that you have the all caps, that's the actual running head. The difference is on the first page of this, you need to have, in Senate's case, it needs to say running head with a colon before it. And you can see the difference between the two is on the first page, you have the running head. It spells out running head, and then it has the all caps version. And then on the second page here and all the subsequent pages after that, it's just the all caps 50 character running head. And what you should see is it should either exactly mirror or be a shortened version of the title of your paper. So the title of your paper and the running head should be about the same, or as close as you can get it. Also in the header up at the top, you'll see there are page numbers, and there'll be subsequent page numbers that'll go through the whole paper. All right, so the title for this paper will go on the first page. So that's should be the only thing on this first page. And that's going to be, there are 3 things in APA 6, and that is the title of your paper, the authors, so that should be you, and then the school that you're attending will be the third line. And generally that's going to be all that you're going to see. We want that to go about like a third of the way down, maybe not quite half of the way down the page, right? So it should just go a little bit down. Just don't put it all the way at the bottom or all the way at the top. Just kind of find a kind of good medium place in the middle. All right, okay. So when we go over to APA 7 now, the title page is going to be a little bit different. So we're going to have the title of the page. So this is for a student paper, right? So, and it's not going to have the running head. I'll show you that in a second. So that's the main difference between the two is they're not going to have that running head. So it's going to have the title of the paper, the name of the author, paper. All right, so here should be your example. You're going to see at the top, you're going to have the page number, the paper's title is going to be in all is going to be in what we call title case, and you can see title case is when the important nouns, the important verbs are going to be capitalized, and your conjunctive words, or your the these and the a's and the ands and those kinds of things are going to be in just regular sentence case. So this is called title case. If you can see it, it's going to be in bold. We're going to have a space between there, and then it's going to have your name, the author's name, and then the affiliation, what we call affiliation, which is the school that you're going to. For here, just put you could put English Department, East Carolina. You could just put East Carolina. That's fine. The course number for this course would be English 1100, and then instructor's name will go below that, and then the due date of the paper, and that's going to be in more kind of a more traditional dating format, as opposed to MLA. It's a little bit different the way they do it. So use this. You can use this as an example. I took this from I believe I took this from the Purdue OWL. They have an APA 7 formatted paper on Purdue's online writing lab page. You can download that. It's pretty simple, pretty easy to find. All right, so in APA, so here's some of the basic things that are going to be different about the style. So first person is acceptable, and we say that because this is more of a science-based thing. And so if you're giving like a science report, or you're doing some kind of biology study or something like that, you're the one generally, or you or a group of people are going to be the ones who are actually doing it. So what you're doing is you're reporting back. So it makes more sense that it might be in first person, either singular or plural, doesn't matter which. However it works out. So first person is acceptable here. We, of course, just like in MLA, we want active sentence structure. So we want to get rid of try to get past the passive structure of a sentence. So subject, verb, object, as we've spoken about before. We want simple language, as simple as you can get. Sometimes you'll read some of these. If you read like biology papers or chemistry papers or something, or physics or something like that, it'll like your mind will start melting as soon as you even just start looking at it, because it's so complicated. So we want it to be as simple as we can, as readable as you can. And we want to think about word choice here too. In APA 7, these are the things that they want us to think about is, so be specific with the language that you're using, and hopefully you're seeing in the feedback that I'm giving you on your papers is I'm asking you for specificity, right? So I want you to not be vague in your writing. So in this case, so we want to say like the participants in a study, or the respondents in a study, rather than the subjects of a study, right? Because the subject of a study could be just about anything. But so there's a difference between a participant. So a participant in a study might be somebody who's taking the COVID-19 vaccine, and a respondent might be somebody who is just, taking one of those phone calls, kind of robo phone calls during election season to say, who are you going to vote for? So there is a specific difference between those two people. If you're actually actively participating in a study, is different than if you're just getting responses. Same thing with, if it's kids, then say it's kids, it's children instead of the people, or those kinds of things. One of the things that I really need you guys to think about is to not use absolutes, and that's kind of this final bullet here at the bottom of this page is, so when you say all the people in the country or everybody in the whole world believes this, that's an absolutist kind of an ideology, and what that says is that there is no human being on the planet who does not believe in the way that you suggested. And I don't know if you've been around too long, but nobody believes this. Not everybody on the planet believes the same thing. It's just not possible. I mean, it's hard to get two people to agree on just about much of anything. So the way we avoid that is by using words like suggests, right? So the evidence suggests this to be the case, or our study indicates, or the respondents believe that something, and what this allows us to do when we use this kind of language, it feels a little hedgy, like you're trying to, have your cake and eat it too kind of language. But what it allows us to do is to be a little bit more scientific, and to say we can't account for every single thing on the planet, right? We can't account for every case. All we can do is disprove. We can't prove. So when we use a phrase like the evidence suggests, what we're saying is that our scientific method tells us that the best that we know, all the evidence that we have up to this point shows that, or suggests that, or indicates that. And as instead of saying, in every single case, frogs will turn into, princes or whatever it is. Like, it just doesn't make sense. So we need to make sure that we're not using absolutist language. That's what I see a lot. It kind of drives me a little nuts. All right. So let's think about this. So long quotes. When we talk about this is kind of similar to MLA in that if you have a significant quote that you think you really need to use the whole quote because it really exemplifies, you can't get away from proving your point without giving the entirety of this quote. And it's 40 or more words, and it gets turned into a block quote. And I can show you how to do that. It's not hard to do that. It's just a matter of indenting one indented space for the entirety of the block quote instead of putting it all in quotation marks. You're very rarely going to use it, but you can if you really, really, really need to. All right, so we don't want poetic or figurative language. Remember, this is science. So if you guys are Star Trek fans, what I always say is think more Spock and less Kirk. We want more science. We want more analytical thinking and less emotion. APA, of course, uses those headers to organize the ideas within your paper. And I would say use less of the headings than more. And it's